Am I the a-hole for telling my sister that the adoptive parents have a point for no longer contacting her? My sister gave birth to her twins, boy and girl, in June of 2020. She had been living with me before then after being evicted. I have 3 kids and work full-time, and I told her if she was going to keep her babies, she was going to have to find other living spaces. I have 2 bedrooms and it's cramped already. I'm not sacrificing my room to share with her and 2 newborns. She said okay. When she was 6 months pregnant, she said she was going to give her baby up for adoption and contacted this top adoption agency, and they sent her a pamphlet of potential parents. I was shocked, since she never brought up giving them up for adoptions. I felt guilty, so I told her if she got a job and paid me $400 a month, maybe we could find a 3-bedroom. But she said she doesn't want to be a mom, and that she's made up her mind. She ended up choosing a very wealthy couple for her baby. They both made 6 figures and had a very clean, squeaky look to them. I told her they looked stuck up, and she said she wanted her twins to live an upper-class lifestyle. The agency and couple flew her out to their city in a 5-star hotel for the rest of her pregnancy. It was supposed to be an open adoption, and when my sister came back, they did send pictures once a month by mail. Then when the twins were about 6 months old, all of a sudden they ghosted my sister, deleted all their social media handles to probably create new ones, and even moved. My sister had a breakdown and I was equally shocked. The agency brushed her off and said the parents have the right to do whatever they want, and told her not to call again unless she was pregnant. For weeks, I pitied my sister, until she got drunk and told me something. She said that she texted the adoptive mom that she needed $2,000 because she wants to go back to school or something, and the mom told her she doesn't feel comfortable with my sister messaging her asking for money. And my sister told her that they're beyond rich and that $2,000 is what they spend in a day, so they're not hurting. And that's when they ghosted her. That changed things for me, and I told my sister that she shouldn't have done that, and that maybe they had a point. She started crying. It is still giving me the cold shoulder. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. She chose rich parents so she could get something out of it. The adoptive parents realized this and went no contact. Hopefully she realizes her mistake and doesn't pull this if her biological kids ever try to contact her. That's what I thought too. I told her to choose another couple that seemed sweeter, but she only cared about money. Edit for those confused. There's a lot of options to choose from in the book they send you, and my top choice sadly wasn't chosen. I hope they do end up adopting a baby one day, whoever they are. They seemed very chill. My sister said she wanted her kids to have rich parents. I don't think choosing a couple that seemed sweeter would have really helped the situation. Even the sweetest couple ever would be questioning her motives and ability to maintain healthy boundaries after asking for money like that, which I also suspect was a greater amount than $2,000. I have a feeling that there was more than just asking for $2,000 that led them to not only cut off contact, but delete their socials and move. You're definitely not the a-hole. Me too, but sadly I think I shut her out and she won't ever tell me the full truth. She's a very impulsive spender, so I see her asking for way more than that. Maybe that was the last straw, and they actually sent her money before in the past. I'm not sure. Not the a-hole. It sounds like sister was hoping the adoptive parents would be a cash cow for her, but once the adoption is final, they hold all the cards. Yep. She thought that on top of the 5-star hotel, that they would continue to give her money. She acted like they sold them her children, and they still owe her. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my daddy let my mom down? My parents were married for 24 years. I, 22 female, am their only child together. My dad had 2 sons and a daughter with his first wife. When I was a kid, they shared custody until their mom was sent to jail for something she did to my mom. Before that, she really made sure my half-siblings hated my mom, and they treated her terribly. They called CPS on her twice, claiming she was mistreating them, which she wasn't. And the second time, my mom moved out with me, so my dad could be the only adult in the home with them. They stayed married and they tried to work on a family unit, but my siblings weren't interested. And as soon as their mom got released, they moved in with her and we moved back in with my dad. Dad still chased my half-siblings and tried to make us a family. My mom was diagnosed with cancer when I was 11, and she fought like hell for 11 years. My dad ended up being her caregiver, and he did a good job in some ways, but he left her exposed to my half-siblings. I want to say I blame them, but I know none of it would have happened without their mom. Still, when 14-year-old me found my half-sister telling my mom she couldn't wait for her to die, and how her mom was going to piss and defecate all over her grave and smear it everywhere, and my dad had asked my half-sister to stay with my mom, I knew there was also something wrong with them, because she was 20 at the time of the incident. It broke my mom. But she was fighting so hard to stay alive, she forgot to fight for making her life overall better. My mom died 2 months ago. She wanted to live longer for me, but cancer took hold of her. My dad chased my half-siblings down and begged them to come to the funeral. He tried to encourage them to help us plan and be with us. My oldest half-brother showed up the night before the funeral to tell us his mom and siblings were so freaking glad she was dead, and the world was a better place without my mom, because she was nothing but a nasty W who married someone else's sloppy seconds. I kicked him out so damn fast, but I was pissed at my dad too. I didn't tell him last week, as I mostly ignored him after the funeral, but he kept pushing lately, and so I replied. I told him he failed us. He let my mom down when she needed him the most, and he chose 3 people so full of hatred that they act like monsters. I told him I couldn't even look at him. A lot of my dad's siblings got involved because they feel I was too harsh after the loss he suffered, and now it's making me feel a tiny bit bad. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Your dad put you and your mom through horrible treatment for years for the sake of trying to form a family bond with his first family. Not the a-hole. I was waiting for someone to mention that Opie got traumatized due to the spineless dad. Opie, you have to start a new life for yourself. And if you want to go low contact or no contact with your dad, that is up to you. Cut anyone who was not/is not supportive of you. Have therapy and live a good life, and leave them to karma to find them. Don't let them all mess with you too. Not the a-hole. Sounds like your father let a lot of people down, including your half-siblings who never learned to properly cope with or accept the fact that he moved on from their mother and remarried. That was a failure on the adults in your family, and how they managed communication amongst you all while growing up. There is, however, no excuse for how they treated your mother, and I agree that her care and comfort should have been the priority. I don't know. An adult came to say they were happy Opie's mom died? Sounds like they're just at the core not good people. Please never speak to your half-siblings again. I don't understand how you don't hate them. I'm petty, and the hatred I would feel for them would be never-ending. Never have any contact with them or any kids they may have. Not the a-hole. You told the truth after I kept pushing it. Where were all these aunts and uncles while the stepkids were being monsters to your mom? Did they tell the stepkids they were being too harsh and downright hateful to your mom? No? Then ignore them. Sorry about your mom. Peace and kindness to you. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to get rid of my daddy's #1 princess t-shirt? I, 20 female, lost my dad 2 years ago, and since then, it's been revealed that he had another daughter, Amanda, 25 female. Before my dad met my mom, he was involved with another woman and dumped her when he found out that she was engaged to another man. The guy was military and overseas, so my dad had no way of contacting him, and he didn't know the woman well enough to reach out to any mutual friends, although my dad did later regret not trying harder. Unbeknownst to my dad, he accidentally got her pregnant, and she tried to pass Amanda off as her fiancée, but it didn't work. She eventually married someone else but later divorced, and the guy completely cut contact. Because of this, Amanda always wanted to know who my dad was, and tried reaching out to him but didn't have much luck because, again, they didn't know each other long. My dad wasn't from there. He moved away and changed his contact information. Eventually, Amanda got a hit through 23andMe through my cousin and reached out. By that time, my dad was already gone, but his parents, siblings, and their children were more than welcoming. My brother and I were pretty weirded out by this, and since our dad wasn't on her birth certificate, we didn't believe her until there was a DNA test. I wish I could say that this was a magical moment where we all hugged and are now besties, but honestly, I don't feel this strong familial tie to her because I didn't grow up with her. My brother says he feels the same, but we both make the effort to be nice when she's around. Now, up until Amanda came around, I was my dad's only daughter, and because of this, he had a lot of daddy's favorite daughter type of things because I was his only daughter at the time. It was like a fun little joke between us. Out of all the things he's given me in relation to this theme that I cherish most, is a custom-made t-shirt he got me with a picture of us at a father-daughter dance when I was 12, and a caption, Daddy's #1 princess. It was one of the last things my dad ever gave me, and I love it very much. I never showed it to Amanda, but I guess someone else told her, and she gently confronted me about it and asked me to get rid of it and anything like this. She expressed how she's been in therapy to cope with never having a true father figure, and that her actual father died before ever meeting her, and knowing that I was his favorite daughter is really upsetting her. I told her that while I am sad about the situation and won't ever bring it up around her, I am not getting rid of it. I thought Amanda and I had an understanding, until my aunt called and berated me for not being respectful to my sister's feelings, and that getting rid of a t-shirt that I don't even wear is a small sacrifice, because I at least have the memories of having a loving father while Amanda doesn't. Am I the a-hole? Edited to add, because I keep seeing this, I just wanted to clarify certain things. 1. My mom and dad were never married, and broke up before I was born, and I'm currently living with her, so that's where the bulk of my daddy's number one princess type of things are there, and Amanda has no reason to come to my mom's house, so I'm not worried about things going missing. 2. I've spoken to my brother, and he agrees that so long as I don't wear them or bring them up around Amanda, I should have the right to keep them. 3. My grandparents are trying to stay neutral in this because they see both sides to the argument. Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. Amanda is the one not respectful of your feelings. How can she ask you to get rid of your memories from your father? She just sounds jealous. Given the situation, I wouldn't be surprised, but I also wouldn't blame her. I wouldn't blame her either, but I do blame your aunt for not minding her own business. Not the a-hole. If family's coming after you, you should pack up these types of mementos and put them somewhere safe. One of them could take it upon themselves to get rid of something they think you shouldn't have. I second this. People do weird stuff, and this sounds like something your aunt would do, or convince someone to do, to try to make Amanda happy. Not the a-hole. Absolutely not the a-hole. You were objectively the favorite if he never even met her, first off. Her loss isn't your responsibility to deal with. Your memories and keepsakes from your father are 100% yours to hold on to. I have 2 siblings, and when I give my mom a present, I always sign it, "From your favorite child," even though we all know she loves us equally. But no one is ever offended, because that's just silly. My brother does the same thing. He is the only boy in the family, so he often signs presents or cards with "From your favorite son/brother/sibling." But we all know it's a complete joke, and no one is offended. Last story is titled, Am I the a-hole for not forcing my son, 11 male, to like his stepsister, 15 female? I, 29 female, had my son, 11 male, with my ex. My son is autistic and does not like it when people touch his belongings. When I had him, my ex decided he didn't want to be a father and abandoned us. My parents were lifesavers, and they took care of him when I had to attend college classes. I work full-time now and live in a great apartment. My ex reached out when son turned 8 and wanted to meet him. I brought him to a nearby park and we came to an agreement that son can stay with ex every other weekend. I bought my son a Switch for his 8th birthday, and he brings it with him everywhere. My ex also has been seeing a girl for the past couple of months who has a daughter, 15 female. My son came back home yesterday and didn't speak to me at all when I picked him up. I was extremely worried and called my ex when I got home. And he told me that son wasn't letting girlfriend's daughter play on the Switch, and he grabbed it out of son's hand. Girlfriend's daughter dropped it down the stairs, and it has a huge crack in the screen. I went to talk to my son and told him that I would be happy to get him a new Switch and any game that he wants. He was very happy, but told me that he didn't want to go back to ex's house anymore because the daughter was mean to him. And I told him that I was not going to force him to do anything he didn't want. Now my ex wanted to take my son this coming weekend, and I told him that we had plans to go to a theme park and that son didn't want to go over to the house anymore. I told my ex it's because the daughter made my son very uncomfortable. My ex flipped out and accused me of keeping son away from him, but I had enough at that point and hung up on ex. Am I the a-hole for not forcing son to like girlfriend's daughter? Edit. I do have full custody of my son and did suggest having ex come over to the apartment, but he refused. Not the a-hole. He's being a prick to your son and abandoned you and your son 11 years ago. He doesn't suddenly have a claim over him. Yeah, I don't think I'd rush the son into hanging out with the father overnight. Maybe for a couple hours. The father is a stranger to the child. I'm wondering if the dad's girlfriend suggested he get back into the kid's life because the girlfriend has a kid of her own? Not the a-hole. That 15-year-old is a huge a-hole for trying to steal and subsequently breaking a child's toy. She should know better. He's also autistic, so she should be extra aware of being tactful. You said he doesn't want to be around the daughter, not the father. His father can visit him without the daughter, or have him over when she's not there. The reaction to the daughter breaking the son's property is quite telling. Not a lot was mentioned about it, and therefore I deduced that not much was done. Not much was done probably due to the fact the father is trying to appease his girlfriend. Take into account that's not even his daughter. It sounds like he's putting more consideration into his stepdaughter's sentiments than his own son. I could be completely off base. He also refused other arrangements, like meeting at another place. I really don't care if the kid is 1, 11, or 111. If you damaged my property, you were obligated to make amends. And it would only be reasonable for the kid not to trust him. I don't see the father being an advocate for his son in this in any of the information given. And damn it, I wish I was wrong on this. He is using his own son as a pawn in a game of clout. I think the son is a sharp kid. It is catching on. Not a-hole. Your ex is trying to impress his new potential squeeze. It is an a-hole. Be careful about violating court orders and the long-term impact that might have on you. I was ordered full custody of my son. I have no wish for letting my ex see my son, but I want son to be comfortable. I did suggest ex coming over to the apartment, but he refused. Am I the a-hole for not delaying my wedding because my sister is going through a terrible divorce? My sister Rachel is separating from her husband Mark. Somebody anonymously sent Mark a letter in the mail claiming their 3 kids weren't his, ages 1, 3, and 4. Mark took a paternity test because the letter was so detailed that he had a feeling it might be true. The results came back and he wasn't the father of any of the kids. And Mark now wants nothing to do with my sister or my nieces and nephew. It's been hard on her, and everyone has been shaken. The problem is my fiancé and I are getting married soon. Everything is set for the end of October, and everyone is excited. But Rachel. She's told me multiple times to change the wedding date, so she can heal from the trauma of her husband abandoning her and their children. I told her no, and she burst into tears claiming I wasn't being supportive and that she wasn't coming. My fiancé's family have all booked time off to come to this wedding because they live out of state. But she claims I'm choosing his family over her. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. All 3 of their children aren't his? That she repeatedly cheated on her husband and is now dealing with the consequences does not mean you don't get to move along with your life's plan. How would that sound anyway? I'm postponing my wedding so my sister that basically cheated on her husband 3 times can feel supported. Not the a-hole. I can't believe none of the kids are his. Poor guy. Your sister is the a-hole. She's at fault for her marriage collapsing, then demands everyone else to stop their lives so she can heal from the trauma of the consequences of her actions catching up to her. Definitely the a-hole. The nerve of her to say he abandoned his wife and children. None of the children were his. He is not the father, and they're young enough, at least, to not be too affected if she puts in the work. She probably won't. Not the a-hole. Your sister caused much of her own trauma. She lied, and I would assume cheated on her husband, so she left her. She wasn't just abandoned. Enjoy your wedding. Probably best if she wasn't there anyways. Obi's ex-brother-in-law is the only one entitled to feel trauma. And those poor kids, especially the older ones. Not they all, Obi. You already had the day basically ready. People already have the time off. And personal bias. Halloween wedding? That better go through. Your sister talks about getting over trauma, yet she's the one that I'm sure broke a man. Enjoy your wedding and bust out a monster bash. She can take this time to either look for a sitter for the kids or learn how to deal with her own choices in life. If I were a guest and had arranged time off, transportation, hotel, etc. for this wedding, and then the date was moved because someone who is neither the bride nor groom cheated on their spouse years ago, don't bother inviting me to the new date. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for refusing to share my inheritance with a sibling? I don't have anyone I can share these thoughts with in person, so I'm hoping you guys can help me resolve this. I, 20 male, am a single child, or at least I thought I was. Then just over a year ago, I discovered that I have a sister, Lucy. The story goes that my mother had a child with her first boyfriend while she was in college, and they couldn't support her, so she opted for adoption at birth. My father was aware of this, but I was never told. Anyways, about a year ago, she made contact with our mother. They've gotten on pretty well, kept in touch, and go on the odd lunch. Lucy's also attended a couple of our family events this past year. Her and I get along fine as well. We're different people, so not friends. So I sort of see her as an acquaintance/friend of the family, I guess. It's a little odd because I know we're closely related, but at the same time, she doesn't feel like family, if that makes sense. Okay, so there's the backstory. Now on to the dilemma. My grandparents on my mother's side both passed away a few years ago. My mother was their only child, and I their only grandchild, and they left their entire estate to me. This was known to my parents and me before they passed, as they had expressed it when they made their will. My parents are well off financially. Mom's a nurse while Dad's a doctor, and so they were fine with the arrangement. I was given access to the money on my 20th birthday, and the sum of money was much larger than I expected, totaling around $6 million. This is why I can't really talk about this with anyone impartial, because I don't really want friends etc. to know. Anyway, a few weeks ago my mother sat me down and asked me to share the money with Lucy. Now here's the thing. Like I said, to me Lucy is essentially an acquaintance. I know we're related by blood, but I don't exactly feel the type of connection to her that would merit giving her such a large sum of money, or any money at all for that matter. So I explained that to my mother, and she wasn't exactly happy with my answer. She believes I'm being extremely selfish, and that Lucy could very much benefit from this money as well, since she's still a college student and in debt. Here's where I think I might be the a-hole. I don't really see that as my problem. I believe families who feels like family, not who shares your DNA. Secondly, my grandparents were aware of Lucy's existence, even though they never met her, and they chose to leave everything to me all the same. Also, it is not as though Lucy grew up poor in the foster system or anything. She was adopted at birth by what seems like two great people. Her adoptive parents are an accountant and a teacher. I do not plan to just hoard the money. I am starting law school this year, and plan to use it to start my own firm once I'm finished. So go forth and judge me, please. Am I being a selfish a-hole here, or am I justified in thinking that simply being related by blood doesn't merit any claim here? Not a-hole. Your grandparents were aware of Lucy's existence, and they chose not to leave her an inheritance. I'm guessing, since she was legally adopted, your grandparents didn't feel it was necessary. Also, Opie's mother was obviously aware of Lucy's existence, but seemingly did nothing about it until now. Either way, not a a-hole. Yeah, the adoption took away any legal right, at least where I'm from, to the inheritance. Mom tries to make up for giving her daughter away by giving away Opie's money. Though I get the sentiment, this will only divide a family. Really hope she didn't tell her daughter about the inheritance, as that could have set her up for a lot of hurt and fighting. Also, depending on where Opie lives, you should refrain from giving even a small amount of money, as that could be counted as admittance if the sister ever should try to sue. Not a-hole. Your mother's parents could have made provisions for your mother and/or the daughter she gave up for adoption if they wanted. Your mother is free to make whatever arrangements she sees fit with her estate, but your grandparents made their wishes known when they left their estate to you. I agree. Your parents seem to be doing well, and now that you have that money, they could focus their finances on her. My father makes a majority of the family's income, and this isn't his child. So I don't know how he would feel about financing her. Should have mentioned that. By the same token, she is not your child. I generally agree with the no a-hole commentary. I'm just going to point out that if you don't share, that's totally valid. Just don't be surprised later if your mom leaves more to Lucy than you might otherwise expect, as her way of equalizing. Next story. Am I the a-hole for lashing out at my sister for not shutting up about adoption decision? My girlfriend, 25 female, is almost 4 months pregnant. We try to be careful with protection, but I guess we messed up, and here we are. Her and I, 25 male, decided adoption will be best. We want kids in the future, but we're both working minimum wage jobs, barely making it okay with the bills every month. And we talked about it a lot before we decided it just wouldn't be fair if our baby had to live in horrible conditions because it will get expensive when we could find someone who might be able to. We found this couple through friends of friends, and we are getting to know them pretty well, seeing what kind of people they are. My family knows we're choosing this route, and for the most part, support it. My sister, 35, however, keeps pushing that we keep the baby. She has 3 kids herself, and all she keeps saying is parenthood is hard, but it's rewarding. I've told her, yeah, we get that. We want kids, but in the future with better jobs and us not counting change in our pockets to take the train to work. It's been hard enough accepting the reality that we won't get to raise our first baby together, and her constant comments don't make it better. Even when I ask her, tell me how we're gonna support a baby, she just said she doesn't know, but you'll find a way. I've told her many times to stop talking about it because of everything it does to us, and she's not even being helpful. Today at my mom's, she still brings it up again. Just saying she really thinks we're making a mistake, and talking about how tough it'll be as a parent, but it'll be worth it. My girlfriend got all upset, she went to the bathroom. And I don't know, I just told her to shut up already. Exactly like that. And that I'm sick of her always talking about this. We know everything we're going to miss out on, so stop talking already. It wasn't like screaming or anything, but I did raise my voice at her because I was just so frustrated already. We didn't stay long, but yeah, my sister does think I was an a-hole for having that reaction. And she didn't deserve to be told shut up for simply caring about her future niece/nephew. We've never fought like this before, but I really couldn't take it anymore. She won't talk to me. Still thinks I was in the wrong. It's hard to see how, but maybe I missed something. Was I an a-hole? Now for the comments. Not an a-hole. You made a very hard, extremely mature decision. Your sister has zero say in it, and if she haven't understand it by now, I guess now she does. If she cares about the baby so much, she can adopt it herself. Good luck, Opie. Funny thing is, I suggested that if she's so adamant about us keeping the baby, but she just told me to stop being ridiculous. Yeah, sounds like she cares so much about future nephew/niece. Not stay home. You've thought about it thoroughly and made what you feel is the best decision for yourselves and your child. Your sister needs to back off and realize it's not a decision you made lightly. If she's that adamant you keep the child, is she planning to help you out financially? Unless she is, she has no say in anything. As someone who struggled with fertility, thank you. Thank you for doing the best for your child. Thank you for giving someone a chance at parenthood that they may not have had otherwise. And good luck with everything. You're doing an incredible, selfless thing. I've brought that up before, and obviously her answer is don't be ridiculous, and then that she has 3 kids she's already supporting. That means a lot. Usually don't get all watery eyes for a comment, but this one does it. Hasn't been easy, especially for my girlfriend. I wish we didn't have to make this choice, but we know this is for the best. I really hope things worked out for you. Hey Opie, I don't know if you're planning an open adoption. Sounds like it. But regardless, a lot can happen over years. I advise you and your girlfriend to write a letter to the baby explaining your decision and how much you love it and wish the timing could have been better. Give it to the adoptive parents. If anything happens, they move away, the relationship sours, something happens to you and/or your girlfriend, etc., then the child will always have your reasons and your love. Something like that, yeah. They'd like for the baby to know about us as they grow up, even if we're not in contact. We're doing something like that, but it's more like a personal journal from each of us, a letter and some pictures. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for RSVPing no to my stepsister's wedding? My stepsister Serena and I have been stepsisters since I was 5 and she was 9, but we have known each other longer. I honestly don't remember my life before she or her mom were in it. Serena's dad passed away when she was a baby, and my mom died 18 months after my dad married my stepmom. So we essentially lived together for a large chunk of our childhoods. But she never did consider me family or her sister. She's older, so I get that the experience was different for her, and she remembers a life before me. I never took it too personally, though I did try to make us closer over the years, but she was never interested. People used to tell me that once we were adults, it would be easier because we'd be at the same stage in life. Serena's getting married in a little over 2 months, and I decided to RSVP no to the invite. I was always a little awkward about going, but I would have. But last month, my parents invited Serena's bridesmaids over to thank them for being part of the wedding. There, I learned that one of her friend's younger sister was also going to be a bridesmaid. This is a friend she has known since senior year of high school. The younger sister is apparently someone she considers a sister. The youngest sister then told me Serena always said she was the sister she never had and stuff. That she had specially asked her to be in the wedding because she considered her as close to a baby sibling as she ever got, and wanted her there. Said nothing, but it just made me realize that she actively chose not to try with me, but could choose to try with one of her friend's siblings she met years after meeting me. Through talking with Serena's little sister, I realized she had made such a big effort to hang out with and spend time with her. It went to her milestones like graduation or even big birthdays. Sweet 16, 21st. She never showed up to that stuff for me, or when she did, my 21st she did show for. She made no effort to hang out with me. She went because her mom had paid for an open bar, and some of her family was going to be there. I don't remember her even speaking to me that night. So I RSVP'd no, and her future husband sent me an email, with my name wrong, that Serena didn't want her mom to know. But then he went and mentioned it to my dad and now it has blown up. My dad asked why I wouldn't attend, and her mom is saying that after all she has done for me, I should show up and be part of the family event. To me, I might be their family, but Serena has made it very clear I'm not hers. I don't think I did anything wrong, but I feel guilty too because this has made ripples in my family. Am I the a-hole? Edited to add, Serena's little sister had no idea I was her stepsister. The little I gathered is, she thought I was a niece of my dad, or as she put it, her mom's husband's niece. Another point, because it may be relevant, is she doesn't talk to me. I make the effort, but she does not communicate with me of her own volition. I was always the one trying to engage with her. Even as basic as a hi, I don't get from her. Not day home. Why go to a wedding of someone who has made zero effort to make you feel important to them? I wouldn't go. Not day home. Would Opie even be invited to be part of the photos? Or at best, be tolerated as part of them? It's okay. You don't need to humiliate yourself to make others happy. You did your best. You don't owe anyone more than that. Don't feel bad. Your parents and step are the a-holes for guilting you rather than your stepsister. It's clear she doesn't consider you a sister. You're not obligated to carry on the charade. I know I've been indifferent at best to you your entire life, and I don't acknowledge our relationship at all. Actually, I don't even really like you. But our parents want me to invite you, and I really want more presents. Does she even want you to come? Will she even say hi? Will she notice if you're not there? Oh, will she even say how she knows you? Or will you be an old family friend? Not stay home. Don't feel bad. You didn't do it. Stepsister caused this. You are over 21. Sit your dad and stepmom down and explain what you wrote here. Say, assure stepmom it has nothing to do with how much you appreciate what she's done for you. That you don't blame her for how sister treats you. But at this point in your lives, you give up. Include the tidbit about the soon-to-be husband didn't even get your name right and told you to keep it from her. That while you tried, you now accept it's never going to change. And hearing about the little sister she always wanted helped you see that more clearly. It makes you sad, but you won't spend any more time being the only one putting effort in. I'd put cash on guessing they didn't want the mom to know about the email, because she probably already talked to sister about you not being in the wedding. Stepmom is probably freaking out because she knows her child is being an A. Can't control your reaction either. It may be being forced to admit the ugly truth about her kid and the relationship between her and your dad. Tell them you hope her day goes the way she wants it, that they both enjoy the day, but you do not wish to pretend anymore. Am I the a-hole for throwing out my brother-in-law's fiancé and saying her comment was out of line? I'll start by telling the background story for what happened to my wife and where this left us so my post makes sense. Some years ago, my wife was injured at her job. My wife didn't cause the situation, but she was the one who was injured, and she lost a limb as a result. Her company was investigated under OHSA, and there was also legal trouble for them because there were major safety violations that led to what happened to my wife. We took the money my wife received in the aftermath to purchase a home, and with the bit that was left over, we invested for our retirement as my wife and I were in our 30s when it happened. We are comfortable having no mortgage, no debt, and having our savings, but we aren't living like we have a bottomless pit. Our house isn't a mansion, our vehicles are used, we don't have expensive clothing or unlimited vacations. Both of us still work part-time because we want to keep our resumes current, as we don't want to rely solely on the money from what happened to my wife because that is our nest egg. And frankly, we both need something to do besides be at home. What happened to my wife was traumatic beyond any words I have. I love my wife exactly how she is. But both of us agreed that we would trade our house and nest egg for our old shoebox studio apartment and the debt we had before, if it meant my wife could go back to how she was before the injury. The money we got was not from something happy. Also, we have never bragged or flaunted our money at anyone. Everyone knows why my wife got that money. There was no way to hide her injury, hospital stay, and rehabilitation, but we don't talk about it to anyone, even though what happened is public. My wife's brother got engaged, and we had the two of them over for dinner and drinks. And his fiancé had a gall to tell my wife, and me, how lucky she was to have the accident because it got her money to be able to afford a house in an expensive market. She further told her she would gladly chop off her own limb, the same limb my wife was missing, to have a free house and to not have to go to work every day. I told her to leave my house because her comment was so out of line to me. My brother-in-law got mad at me for sticking my nose in a family argument, and later I got an angry call from my in-laws because he told them I threw them out. He did not tell them why, but when I repeated his comment, they said the same thing my brother-in-law said, which is that she was probably just nervous and not thinking straight. In that sense, affording a house here was impossible. Her envy is understandable. My brother-in-law wants me to apologize. The only one of my in-laws who wasn't mad at me is my wife's oldest brother. My wife has two brothers, and birth order's oldest brother, engaged brother, and my wife. So, was I the a-hole for getting involved in my wife's familial dispute? Normally, I would never, but in the heat of the moment, I saw red. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. The dispute did involve you. We see so many posts on here where the verdict goes the other way because a partner didn't step up to defend the other. You love your wife, and you're both very realistic about what transpired. What the fiancé said was tacky, disrespectful, and likely cruel. Honestly, I'm currently not working because of an injury, and I've had so many people say, "Must be nice." And it's like, oh yeah, it's so nice being in constant pain and needing pain medicine to have any chance at sleep. I'd love and give anything to be a physically normal human again that has to go to work. I choose that over what my injured life is any day. I agree. I have a chronic pain condition and I hate when people say it must be nice not to work. I always say I wish I was well enough to work. Not a-hole. She was incredibly ableist. Sadly, disabled people have to deal with people like her on a daily basis. Thank you for easing that burden. Your in-laws are full of BS. This is not a family matter, and if it is, you are family. You were defending your wife from a cruel person, and I'm sure she's glad you did. Agreed. Plus, if he isn't family, then who is the fiancé to get involved with this? She isn't even married into the family yet. Not a-hole, and I would never allow her into my home again. Do not apologize. You did nothing wrong. Next story. Am I the a-hole for calling my sister a crazy, delusional woman? My wife thinks I should have handled the situation more diplomatically. My wife, Leah, has a few visible tattoos on her arm and many others that aren't quite seen when she's in regular clothes. She's far from a full slave, but she likes them and has many plans to get more in the future. My sister, Katie, called me in the early morning, distraught and frantic, begging me to watch her son, 6, and her daughter, 4, for the weekend. I said yes right away and she dropped off her children and left. To be honest, I thought that I would be the last person Katie would call in an emergency. Katie hates Leah. Not for any justifiable reason, but because Leah has thug tattoos, as she describes. Katie believes that a woman with tattoos is a cheap woman and will only corrupt a good home. Of course, because of these comments, I choose not to speak to my sister often. Leah and I took my niece and nephew to the playground, where my nephew fell and scraped his knee a little. As expected, he was in tears for a few minutes, but Leah cheered him up, played with him, and placed a Hello Kitty Band-Aid on a cut. It was a very small accident. When Katie came to pick them up, the first thing that she noticed was the Band-Aid covering my nephew's knee. She immediately stormed over to Leah, who was bringing over some tea for Katie, and accused her of deliberately hurting her child. Leah was very confused, and I tried to explain the manner in which my nephew got a Band-Aid, but Katie wasn't listening. She kept blaming Leah, and only Leah, for not taking better care of her children. Things began to quickly escalate. Leah was trying to get Katie's kids to pack their things so that they could get out of there as fast as possible. But Katie kept threatening to call the police on Leah, accusing her of very serious crimes. At the moment, it didn't look like these were empty threats either. She was fishing in her purse for her phone and Leah and I were confused, but worried. At this point, I was getting fed up. I essentially yelled at Katie to stop acting like a crazy, delusional person and leave my house at once. She was upset but left 5 minutes later. Of course, Leah is happy that I did that, but wishes I didn't yell, especially in front of the children. My family has taken Katie's side as it's only a mother's instinct to want to protect her children. Not stay home. Now you know how your whole family stands. What did your nephew need protection from? Gravity? Nah, my wife turned herself invisible and pushed the kid over. He needs a full bodysuit to protect himself from the deadly attacks of my wife. But if she's invisible, nobody can see her evil tattoos. Are you sure it wasn't witchcraft? Not stay home. I think that needs to be the last favor you do for Katie. Maybe even the last time you speak to her. What she threatened is incredibly serious. Obviously, there was no fault on your wife's part or yours. But depending on what industry your wife works in, even the slightest rumor of those allegations can be damaging. Especially if your other family's backing your sister's false claims. Also, it may be a mother's instinct to protect her children, but it is also a husband/wife's instinct to protect their spouse. So you had just as much of a reason to yell. My guess is that your family is also not a fan of your wife. It has no problem with anything that could cause problems for her or your relationship. Yeah, I think I've realized that I can never interact with my niece and nephew again, no matter how big the emergency. Just wait until they are old enough and reach out then. I've seen where people set up email boxes for their kids and write them notes on birthdays, holidays, special occasions. Then they give them to log in when they turn 18. You could do something like that if you want a way to show them when they are older that you always wanted a relationship with them. Not stay home. Tell the rest of your family that they need to get a reality check. Katie was harassing your wife for no justifiable reason. Good on you for defending her. Next story. Am I the a-hole for expecting my sister to reimburse me for my son's suit? I, 38 male, am a father of 2 boys. Andrew, 14 male, and Marshall, 12 male. Yesterday, my parents held an Easter gathering at their house. Me, my parents, and my 4 siblings and their kids were all invited. Marshall told me that he was planning on wearing what he wore to church to my parents' place, a suit and tie. My wife and I reminded Marshall that everyone was going to be dressed more casually, but he said he didn't care. I wasn't too surprised because Marshall has always been kind of a sharp dresser. All of my siblings and their kids were there when we arrived, including my sister, Sarah, 44 female, who I never really got along with. Her twins, both 16 male and daughter, 14 female, were also there. Sarah spoils her kids rotten, and they've always been super bratty because of that. Every family gathering, they've always been pretty rude to their cousins, and they always act super entitled. And surprisingly, Sarah's kids were relentlessly picking on Marshall for choosing to wear a suit, when almost everyone else was dressed more casually. I could tell it really bothered Marshall, but he did his best to not let it get to his head. He did his best to ignore them, and he just hung out with Andrew and his cousins that he gets along with. At around 4:30, we all gathered for dinner outside. Sarah's kids kept picking on all of their cousins the whole time, but especially Marshall because of his choice to wear a suit. Again, he did his best to ignore them, but I still felt really bad. For dessert, my mom made strawberry and chocolate milkshakes for everyone in 2 large blenders that she had. When everyone there was done, there was still about a half blender of chocolate milkshake and a quarter blender of strawberry. Sarah's kids decided it would be funny to dump them on Marshall and ruin his suit, so that's exactly what they did. Poor Marshall was super embarrassed afterwards and ran away crying. My wife went to go chase him and calm him down. I had enough at that point, so I grabbed Andrew and left. I sent Sarah the dry cleaning bill and told her that I am expecting her to pay it, and that if the dry cleaners can't fix Marshall's suit, then she will have to reimburse me for the suit, along with a dress shirt and tie, as well, because she acted like it was no big deal that her kids decided to bully Marshall for no reason. She then told me that she doesn't think that she should have to reimburse me, and that I'm a terrible father for having my son wear a suit to a casual gathering. I blew about her, telling her that she has no business in saying how my son should dress, and that she needs to learn how to discipline her bratty teenagers, and that she needs to stop spoiling them. I do feel like that may have been uncalled for. My parents and all of my other siblings are all on my side, believing that Sarah should reimburse me, but they do believe that I should have had Marshall dress more casually. I disagree though, because there's nothing wrong with Marshall wanting to look his best. Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. Marshall wasn't dressed inappropriately. It was a family party on a major holiday, not a hike through the Grand Canyon. His cousins ruined his clothes on purpose. It wasn't an accident. They wanted to embarrass him and mess up his clothes. Their parents absolutely should pay to fix the problem. And if they were decent parents, they would make their kids earn back every cent. Yep, it would be different if the suit got ruined playing outside. That would be Marshall's fault for wearing a suit, but playing like he was in normal clothes. He didn't. He took care of the suit and didn't affect anyone. The cousins deliberately ruined it. If those teenagers were mine, they would be paying for the suit and getting lectures for being bullies. Yeah, these brats did this out of meanness, not because they felt the suit was inappropriate for a casual gathering. Even if he was wearing gym clothes, their behavior would still be completely off the charts and unacceptable. Not stay home. It doesn't matter what Marshall was wearing. Although in an ideal world, she'd take a step back and ask herself if she really wants to insinuate that he was asking for it based on how he was dressed. Her kids deliberately wrecked his clothes. She needs to take responsibility for that. Edit: everyone sucks here except for Marshall. Parents too weak to intervene and just let 16-year-old bullies pick on a 12-year-old that just wanted to look nice. Shaking my head, it must suck to be Marshall and feel abandoned to his tormentors. Your sister sucks and so do her kids. Poor Marshall. Info: did you just look at two 16-year-old bully your 12-year-old without intervening? I am confused as to how the situation escalated and why it feels like nobody said anything. Exactly. That is what I just commented. What a toxic failure the OP wife and grandparents are as well. To just allow them to do this. That crap would not fly in my mother's house. At all. Edit: I'm not gonna leave any more comments for now, but thank you all for commenting. I saw a lot of comments saying how I should have directly intervened more and prevented a bullying, which I have failed to do. So my wife and I apologize to Marshall for that. I'm also gonna teach both Andrew and Marshall how to defend themselves if something like this happens again. I have also told my parents and all of my other siblings that I will not be attending any more family gatherings if Sarah and her kids are invited. That is, until she pays for the suit and her kids' behavior improves. I'm also probably gonna go no contact with her for a while. Now, for the last story, am I the a-hole for refusing an apology from a kid that used to bully me? I, 13 male, got bullied from ages 6 to 9 by a kid, now 15. Let's call him Alex. Alex bullied a lot of kids, but he did it to me the most. When I was 7, my sister lost a battle with cancer and passed away. Me and my parents were very sad about it, but Alex decided it was a good reason to torment me even more. He would constantly say that it was my fault my sister passed away and things like that. When I was 9, I got taller, so I wasn't an easy target anymore, and so the bullying stopped. 4 years later, when I was with a friend at a train station, I saw Alex again, and he came up to me saying that he wanted to apologize about what he did to me. I said that I can't forgive someone who bullied me about my sister's death. He then denied the fact that he bullied me about that, and asked me why I made it up. My friend said that he shouldn't lie, and that everyone from our old class knows that Alex did that. He then got very mad and shouted at me saying that he didn't do that, and that he was the victim. I then said that he can F off, and that I will never forgive him for what he has done. Alex then ran away, crying of rage and humiliation. Since everyone at a train station was looking at him, Alex's mother scolded me and said that I shouldn't be so harsh, and that Alex can't help it because he has anger issues. I told her that having anger issues isn't an excuse to torment someone about losing their sister. She then got upset and ran to Alex, still with tears in his eyes. So, am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. You're not required to accept an apology. Forgive and forget culture protects abusers, but doesn't do much for the victims. I also thought that. Thanks for letting me know. Best you could have done was acknowledge the apology, but you aren't required to accept it. Honestly, it doesn't sound like he was really apologizing. Maybe his mother was forcing him to, and maybe he will get in trouble for not getting you to forgive him. But that is not your problem to deal with. It's not your job to protect him from the consequences of his own actions. Not stay home. Screw that kid. That's what I thought. Not stay home. I was bullied too, and I told one of mine years later that I hope the guilt of what he did haunts him for life. Boys should learn that saying sorry doesn't fix what they did. But if any victim forgives their tormentors, more power to them though. I'm sorry that you've also been bullied. Thanks for letting me know. I hope you're doing better now. I was bullied all the way through school, and it still affects me now as an adult with 2 grown children. I've never received an apology from any of my bullies. And quite frankly, I don't want one. I live 500 miles away from the place where I grew up, and I just keep in touch with the people I want to keep in touch with. One of my bullies passed away a few years ago, and another one passed away last year. I expressed my condolences on Facebook for their families on a memorial page for students who have passed away from my high school. And I was sincere about it because their families were hurting, and I'm not a cold-hearted person. But I didn't shed any tears for them either. Am I the a-hole for refusing to let my brother-in-law see my son after causing me to miss his birth? I'm male 30s, got a few close friends from college that I hang out with, including my brother-in-law, sister's husband, Austin. My wife and I are expecting our first baby, and because this was our first, we struggled with understanding things like whether my wife was going into labor or just dealing with pain/soreness. We ended up in the hospital for nothing since she was due in July. Therefore, I've limited my time out with the guys, especially in the evening/nighttime. I've skipped meetings with them to stay home by my wife's side ready for any emergencies. This made my friends upset, as they haven't seen much of me in a while. I explained my situation, but they gave me crap about it every time, especially Austin, who kept pressuring me into going out for a few beers saying he was in my shoes twice and has experience. He said that XYZ signs, can't say it here, mean my wife would soon be in labor and advised me to relax. One night, I caved into going to his farm since his birthday was days prior, and I missed it because my wife got sick. He wasn't happy and whined about it. My wife was with my in-laws and I wanted to call her, but I couldn't find my phone. I put it on the counter but it wasn't there. I borrowed one of their phones after an hour or so of search to call my wife, and her sister picked up asking where I was. I was in dismay when she said she was at a hospital with my wife because her water broke and she went into labor. I couldn't explain, so I just drove to the hospital ASAP but was met with my father-in-law berating me for ignoring his text and 18 missed calls. Then I wasn't allowed in the delivery room because my wife screamed at me to stay out. I felt awful as I waited outside while my in-laws berated me for my neglect, even when I said I lost my phone. Then Chris said Austin hid my phone after seeing father-in-law's text to get back at me for missing his birthday. I blew up at Austin calling him an SOB for doing this. He said Chris was a liar and swore he didn't see any text or calls and that he just hid it as a joke to scare me a bit. I left after this and haven't seen him in days. The guys got involved begging me to make things right with Austin who didn't know, otherwise he would have told me. So it was a misunderstanding and my wife bears the blame for not letting me into the room. But can I blame her? I still refuse to see him. And now my sister said I should let Uncle Austin see little Timmy because he's longing to meet him as family, and even cried and said I was being unfair to him and all those years of friendship we had. But I said no, I won't let him meet my son after this. Chris said Austin bragged about it later on. Then Chris decided to tell me because he thought it was wrong that I get blamed by my in-laws. Edited to Ed. I'm sorry for not responding, but I was very busy. And to make few things clear. 1. None of my family said anything about not allowing Austin to see my son except my sister and my friends. 2. Chris is one of the guys who were there that night. He and Austin aren't very close, and Austin thinks Chris hates him for no reason and doesn't like having him around much. But just for the group's sake, Austin tries to keep the peace. But in my opinion, Chris is a decent guy. 3. My in-laws are upset with me as well as my wife, and say that even though Austin was at fault, I too for being reckless and irresponsible. Now for the top comments. Not today, Hall. You need new adult friends. Nothing funny about what they did. I personally find that unforgivable. This times 1 million. OP, you need to find friends that add to you and your family's lives, not this selfish brat. I would never forgive this guy. He would be dead to me forever. Hopefully your wife understands what he did to both you and joins you in banning him. Not today, Hall. He deliberately hid your phone so you missed your child's birth. That is the type of person you don't want around your child. Yeah. What if it had been something life-threatening for OP's wife/child? He's not even sorry. He bragged about it. Not today, Hall. Everyone sucks here except your wife. Others are letting you off the hook, but you too are an a-hole. You're a 30s male, and you allowed peer pressure to force you to hang out? Yes, he stole your phone and that makes him the biggest a-hole for him deliberately pulling his crap. But you as a grown man should be keeping better tabs on your stuff. And you as an adult need to learn to put your foot down. But I guess this was a learning experience for you. I agree OP's not off the hook. Brother-in-law may have hidden the phone, but OP is an adult. Grow a backbone. Keep track of your stuff. OP decided to go drink with friends when his wife was full term. The newest phone was missing for over an hour before borrowing a phone to call in? That's his own actions there. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for excluding my brother from the family vacation after I almost caused my daughter to get hurt? Me, 35 female, and my brother, 30 male, are very close, and we always have been. He has been coming over almost every day for the past couple years, and he practically lives in my house, despite him having his own apartment. I don't mind it, and neither does my husband because he helps out around the house. It is great with my daughter Stella, 10 female. Every year, we go on a family vacation with me, my husband, my daughter, and my brother. I don't bring our mom and dad because they already do their own vacations around this time. It's nothing personal. This year, we were going to stay at a hotel by a beach, and I reserved suite rooms for all 4 of us. The vacation is in 1 week at this moment. Yesterday, I had to run a few errands and I needed my husband to help out with a few of them. So I asked my brother to babysit Stella while we were gone, and he agreed. I told him thank you and then was out the door. I was a little bit worried because he has never babysat Stella before. I don't usually need my husband for errands, and he is unemployed so he's always home. But I knew how great he was with her and assumed everything would be fine. After running the errands, I drove back home. And to my horror, I saw my daughter sitting in the road playing with her dolls. I stopped the car, ran out, grabbed my daughter and brought her inside. But as soon as I walked in, I saw my brother watching some movie on the couch. I screamed something along the lines of, "What the hell? You just left my daughter unsupervised in the road after I told you to babysit her. She could have gotten run over by a car or someone could have kidnapped her. You're always so great with Stella, and I gave you one job. To babysit her for a while over an hour while I run errands. Screw you. Get out of my house and you were excluded from the family vacation." He stared at me with wide eyes and said something like, "I didn't mean to. I just got so into the movie and I thought Stella would be okay. And at least she didn't get ran over/kidnapped. And afterwards, he started begging for me to let him go on the vacation still, saying he never gets to do anything nice, and it would be cruel to exclude him from one little mishap. He called me a major a-hole. He asked some of my friends about it, and most of them said, although what he did was wrong, he said sorry and it was just a mistake, and I should stop being such an a-hole. None of them have kids though. Anyways, am I the a-hole? Extra information edit. Stella can be slow and sometimes acts way younger than she is, and she has gotten into dangerous situations before. We haven't brought a doctor into this situation because we assumed she'd grow out of it. Anyways, I thought it'd be safer to have her be babysat due to us noticing this. Probably should have mentioned this. Changed vote below. Was everyone sucks here? He should have been more attentive. But your child is 10. That's plenty old enough to know to not go sit in the road. If he has never watched her before, he may have assumed, usually rightly, that the child is relatively self-sufficient for a bit and would reach out if anything was needed. You have a right to be angry. But your child also holds some blame here, and if this is typical of your child, you should have prepped him for babysitting better, and her better for her own decisions and safety. After you read it, it's definitely your a-hole. 1. Seek professional evaluations for your daughter. I'm also assuming she's in school. Have no teachers brought up concerns? 2. Ensure all those responsible for your daughter know to be very vigilant and are aware of her delays/impairments. They homeschool her, so no one else has been able to notice her delays. This is so messed up. That girl's never been to a doctor? She needs an evaluation and probably special schooling OP can't or isn't providing. Not everyone should be homeschooled, especially not when used to keep her from treatment, a diagnosis she clearly needs. Info: why was your 10-year-old sitting in the road? At 10, I was responsible for my younger siblings and helping them cross the roads and be safe. I even went up to London with my younger sister on our own. Unless your daughter is significantly disabled, your brother had every right to assume that she'd be safe enough for him to relax and not to worry about her too much. You're the a-hole, unless there's disability that you haven't mentioned in the post. Editing to add: Major, you're the a-hole here. Your daughter may have a disability, but you haven't bothered seeking the help of professionals and you didn't bother letting your brother know? At 10 years old, there's every expectation of her being able to be fairly and supervised for a period of time. If she needs more supervision than the average 10 years old, you must tell people if you ask them to babysit. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for only allowing my friend and her son to move in with me and not her husband? My friend Claire, 33, and I, 35, have been close for years. Went to same school, worked same job, and she's like a sister I never had. However, her now husband Thomas and I just never got on. It wasn't blatant, but she tried to get Claire and I to stop hanging out together. The reason was he wanted her to move away from a job opportunity, but she didn't because of me saying she wanted to be near me. Thomas resented me. Days prior to their wedding, he accused me of taking the gold bracelet he got for Claire and lied about seeing it with me. This started a huge conflict, and Claire and I ended up not talking and me being dropping out of the wedding as the maid of honor. We drifted apart since then, but over a year later, Claire reached out and apologized, telling me she was pregnant and that she wanted me to be part of her baby's life as auntie. We had therapy together and things got better. I still don't talk to Thomas nor see him, and Claire respected my wish to stay in no contact with him. Lately, Claire has been struggling with money. She has debts and could no longer pay her mortgage. She asked if she, Thomas, and their 7-month-old baby could move in with me till they find money to rent an apartment. I agreed to let her and her son move in, but not Thomas, given that I'm not on good terms with him after what happened in the past. Claire thought it wasn't right, so I suggested a friend to take them all in. But she said she asked me specifically because I was closer to her than the others. She said it wasn't right to keep her son from his dad, and since she needed help with the baby, then I should consider it. This is what made me think I was wrong for not letting her husband move in. She's clearly overwhelmed and needs help, but I just couldn't bring myself to see him in my house. I would feel very uncomfortable. She said she could make him apologize, but I felt like I was being cornered and pressured into letting him move in. I gave my final decision, which was a no, that Thomas can't move in. We had an argument, and she got emotional about it. Now, our mutual friend said I could suck it up for a month and be patient with Claire since she's a new mom dealing with PPD and naturally wants her partner to be with her. I still said Thomas isn't allowed in my home, but I got called resentful for being hung up on the past instead of helping out. Now for the comments. Not today, Hall. There is no way in hell I would allow someone who accused me of stealing to live in my home. Who knows what he would say if he started feeling threatened by you again. Nope, nope, nope. Anyone who accuses me of stealing anything but their heart is never welcome in my house. Not today, Hall. You're not obligated to host people who have intentionally wronged you. She knows he's the reason your friendship took a huge hit, and that it's something he lied about to manipulate her. She should be evaluating stuff with him. Your friend needs a place to stay, as does her sonded partner. You offered a place for her and her son, but you can't trust your partner because of his actions and complete lack of remorse for how it's affecting you both. Only a-hole here is the partner for his previous actions. Your friend and you are not a-holes for this. She's asked and you gave your answer. If your mutual friend is happy for you to suck it up and let him move in, then maybe they should be offering a place for all three of them. This, totally agreed. Opie not a-hole. Husband sounds like the kind of person who, if you allowed him to move in, would 1. Act like the house is his own. 2. Stay your crap up between you and your friend. You can't maintain a close friendship with a married mother and permanently exclude her husband/baby daddy from your life. That's just never going to work. This friendship ended the moment Claire took Thomas's side and completely ignored your lifelong friendship and logic/reason regarding the bracelet. Claire knows this. You know this. And you're just kidding yourself trying to make this work now. Claire is on her own. She chose Thomas over you, and actions have consequences. I know she is stressed, feels alone, is overwhelmed, etc., but she dug this hole and now she has to live in it. And realistically, the only way you and her will ever have a chance of rekindling your friendship is if Thomas and Claire divorce. Since that is likely not to happen anytime soon, it's probably best if you both go your separate ways. Not an a-hole. Last story. Am I the a-hole for calling my parents terrible parents during a family argument? Some quick background to get us started. I'm 5 years older than my sister, and my parents sucked at adding to the family. They told me mom was pregnant the day I was going to my aunt's for the weekend, and they explained it to me that baby was going to be the most important person in the family. How it got to be the most important person for 5 whole years, and before that, mom and dad were that for each other. But now she was coming. I was devastated. I pretty much assumed I would be replaced totally. It is not all that far from what happened. They let the ball drop with me, and were not as attentive as they used to be, nowhere even close. They missed a lot, and it took years for it to feel like they cared again. When I was 18, I moved out, and soon after I found out they had been approved to be foster parents. I wasn't told about any of this until it was a done deal basically. I knew it was a terrible idea, but my sister had gone along, and so had some other family and friends. Except my aunt, who was vocal about not being sure how good of an idea it was, given how poorly they handled adding a second child to the family. The foster daughter arrived, and it was a very big change for my sister. Suddenly she was ignored, she felt unwanted, and had such a hard time coming to terms with how distant our parents became after 13 years of being the center of attention. Their foster daughter was 11, and I do feel bad she was thrown into the mess because she had no stability before from what I was told, and was pretty much always unwanted. What ended up happening was a couple of months ago, the caseworker called and my sister exploded and said how horrible things were. Things unraveled, and their foster daughter was removed from the home. My sister went to live with me. She's 16, and my parents are furious with her. But our aunt has her back in this, as well as me. Now, on to the reason for the post. I was at my aunt's with my sister, and my parents showed up to argue it out. They turned on my sister and aunt for having their foster daughter removed, and saying how selfish and heartless she was. I cut them off, and told them it wasn't her fault. It was theirs. And if they weren't such terrible parents, none of this would have happened. They said I'm supposed to be grown now, and it was a childish comeback, that an a-hole moved to throw out the way I did. Are they right? Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. It sounds like they had it coming for a long time, and I am astounded you or your sister have it snapped before this. I'm so sorry that you had to experience that kind of childhood. Neglect comes in all shapes and sizes. Edit. I should also point out that it is a good thing that girl was removed from their custody. She needed a stable home, not to be used as a shiny new child for them when they apparently got bored of your sister. Not the a-hole. That's child neglect, and it's the main reason the people from foster care took her away. I don't know what's wrong with your parents. If they're incapable to raise more than one kid at a time, then why would you even have more? Hope you and your sister are doing alright, Opie. She's doing better than she was. I'm used to it by now. I got 5 years. Yes, I was supposed to get 18 years worth of parenting in 5.